Listen to me. This is not a coincidence. You didn't stumble upon these words by accident. You didn't just happen to hear this message because your phone was on or your screen was lit up. No. My friend, this is divine timing. God Himself has arranged this very moment because He wants to tell you something. Heaven is trying to get your attention. You've been asking for a sign, and this right here is it. You see, sometimes God doesn't shout from the clouds. He whispers through the chaos. He speaks through a sentence, a moment, a feeling that won't leave your heart. And if you've been feeling weary, if you've been fighting battles nobody sees, if your faith has been hanging by a thread, God is saying, hold on. I'm not finished with you yet. There's a reason the storm hasn't destroyed you. There's a reason the fire didn't consume you. There's a reason you're still standing when others thought you'd fall. Because God's hand has been on you all along, even in the dark, even in the doubt, even when you couldn't see your own worth. You thought you were forgotten, but heaven has had you on its mind the entire time. God is saying, you're not lost. You're in process. What feels like delay is actually preparation. What feels like rejection is redirection. What feels like the end is the birthplace of something new. You may not understand it now, but He's weaving a masterpiece behind the curtain of your confusion. The pain you're feeling is not pointless. It's producing something powerful in you. Every tear you've cried has been counted. Every prayer you've whispered in exhaustion has been heard. Every disappointment has been building endurance in your spirit. You've been walking through a season that's been trying to break you, but God's been using that same season to make you. Because before He promotes you, He prepares you. Before He reveals the promise, He refines the person. Before He blesses you publicly, He builds you privately. That's why it's been hard. Because destiny doesn't develop in comfort zones. You've been stretched because you're being shaped. You've been pruned because you're being positioned. You've been tested because you're about to be trusted. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you've been waiting for doors to open when God is saying, you are the door. The blessing you're waiting on isn't coming from outside. It's being stirred up inside you. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is alive in you right now. You don't need to chase favor. Favor already has your name written on it. You don't need to beg for validation. Heaven already approved you. You don't need to fit in where God called you to stand out. Yes, it's been tough. Yes, you've been tired. Yes, it feels like everyone else is getting their breakthrough while you're still stuck in the waiting room. But don't let the waiting make you doubt the word. God is still working while you're still wondering. His silence doesn't mean absence. It means alignment. He's aligning your steps, your purpose, your people, your season. So here's what God wants you to know. You're about to see why it had to happen this way. The people who left, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, the doors that closed, they weren't punishment. They were protection. He was saving you from something smaller so he could give you something greater. You've been through enough to quit, but you didn't. You've faced enough to fall, but you're still standing. That means purpose is still alive inside you. God doesn't waste survivors. He sends them. And you, my friend, are being sent into your next chapter with fresh oil, fresh vision, and fresh power. Now hear me. This is your moment to rise. Stop replaying the past and start preparing for the promise. Stop saying, one day, and start walking like it's this day. Stop letting fear paralyze you when faith is trying to propel you. God has already equipped you with everything you need. All he's waiting for is your yes. So lift your head, square your shoulders, wipe your tears, step forward. Because this is not the end of your story. It's the awakening of your purpose. The message is clear. God has not forgotten you. He's calling you. Don't let this word pass you by. Move, pray, believe, obey. Step into what he's been preparing you for. The world is waiting for what he placed inside you. It's time to walk in it boldly, faithfully, and without apology. Because if you're seeing this, it's proof that heaven just sent you a message. And your answer is due now. You didn't find this message by accident. You were led here by divine design. Every moment, every click, every scroll has brought you to this exact point for a reason beyond what you can see right now. God doesn't work through coincidences. He works through divine alignment. There are times when heaven intervenes in the smallest ways to bring you to the right message at the right moment. This is not random. This is not chance. This is purpose in motion. You have been searching, wondering, asking for clarity, praying for confirmation, and trying to make sense of what's been happening in your life. The struggles, the waiting, the silence, all of it has felt heavy. But right here, right now, God is saying, I see you, I hear you, and I have something to tell you. When life feels confusing, when it seems like everything around you is uncertain, that's often when God sends the loudest messages through quiet whispers. He doesn't always send thunder or lightning. Sometimes he sends a simple word that pierces your spirit and brings peace to your chaos. This message is that word. You didn't stumble into it because you were bored or curious. You were guided to it because heaven knew you needed a reminder that you are not forgotten. The very fact that you are hearing this means that the creator of the universe still has his eyes on you. He knows your pain, your questions, and your private battles. You may not have told anyone what you've been carrying, but he already knows every detail, every fear, every sleepless night. This moment is a divine appointment meant to remind you that your life has meaning beyond what your circumstances are showing. There are moments when God interrupts our normal routine to tell us, I'm still with you. You may have been feeling disconnected, uncertain, and maybe even abandoned, but this is his gentle way of saying that he never left, even when it felt like your prayers hit the ceiling. He was listening. Even when you didn't see movement, he was moving behind the scenes. God doesn't always reveal his plan all at once. Sometimes he gives you just enough light for the next step, just enough strength for the next day, and just enough hope to keep going when everything in you wants to give up. You've been wondering why you keep coming across messages like this. Why words about faith, hope, and perseverance seem to find you when you least expect them. It's because you're being pursued by purpose. Haven is relentless about you. God keeps reaching out because he's not done with your story. He wants to remind you that there is something inside you that still needs to rise, something he placed in your heart long before the pain, long before the confusion, long before the disappointment. You are not forgotten, and you are not overlooked. Every tear you've cried has been noticed, and every silent prayer has been recorded in heaven's book. There is power in this moment, because it's not just words you're hearing, it's confirmation. God uses moments like this to awaken something deep inside your spirit. You may have been distracted, discouraged, or even doubting your faith, but right now, his voice is cutting through the noise. He's saying, this is your reminder that I am still in control. When everything seems like it's falling apart, he's already working it out for your good. You might not see how yet, but every step, every setback, every season has been preparing you for something greater than what you can imagine. There are no coincidences in the kingdom of God. The fact that you are still breathing, still fighting, still holding on, is proof that his plan for you is not finished. He chose you for this moment, not because you are perfect, but because you are his. Even in your imperfections, he sees potential. Even in your weakness, he sees strength. Even in your confusion, he sees purpose. He's saying to you right now that you don't have to have it all figured out to be right where he needs you to be. You don't have to see the full picture to trust the painter. The timing, the struggle, the journey, all of it is connected to something bigger than your current season. You were never meant to walk through life alone. God orchestrated this encounter to remind you that he is still present in your story. Every divine message, every moment of inspiration, every unexpected sign, they are all part of his way of speaking to your heart. You've been asking, God, if you're real, show me. And right here, this moment, this message, is his gentle way of saying, I've been here all along. When you thought he was silent, he was speaking through signs. When you thought he was distant, he was standing beside you in the quiet. When you thought no one cared, he was holding your heart with invisible hands, guiding you toward hope again. Every moment in your life has been leading you to this realization. You are seen, you are known, and you are loved beyond measure. The struggles you faced were not meant to destroy you, but to direct you towards something deeper. The very fact that you are reading or hearing this right now is proof that your journey still matters. You are not wandering, you are being guided. And this message is your reminder that the author of your life has not stopped writing your story. What you're walking through right now is not punishment, it's preparation. The challenges that have surrounded you, the trials that have tested you, and the seasons that have stretched you are not evidence that God is against you. They are proof that He is refining you. Every difficulty you face carries divine purpose. The weight you feel on your shoulders is not meant to crush you. It's meant to strengthen the foundation of your faith. You see, growth never happens in comfort. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified by fire. And strength is built through resistance. The very things you've been praying to escape are the same things God is using to shape you into who you're meant to become. There are moments when life feels like a constant uphill battle. You start to wonder, why me? Why now? Why does it have to be this hard? But what you don't realize is that every obstacle is building something inside you that ease never could. Every closed door, every delay, every disappointment is training your spirit to endure, to trust, to rise again. You can't develop endurance in seasons of comfort. You develop it in seasons of challenge. You can't grow stronger without first being stretched beyond what feels possible. God allows the pressure not to destroy you, but to prepare you for the place He's taking you. Sometimes, when God is about to elevate you, He first allows your life to feel like it's falling apart. That's because promotion always comes after pruning. Before He expands your life, He has to empty it of everything that can't go with you into the next chapter. It hurts when people walk away, when opportunities disappear, when what you expected doesn't happen. But that loss is often the very tool He uses to make room for greater things. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. The discomfort you feel is a sign that He's moving you from where you are to where you're meant to be. It's easy to mistake preparation for punishment when you don't see the full picture. You see the pain, but God sees the purpose behind it. You see the delay, but God sees the timing that will protect you. You see the struggle, but God sees the strength being built in your spirit. Everything you've gone through, every heartbreak, every setback, every tear has been working for your good, even when it didn't feel like it. Preparation seasons often feel lonely, confusing, and heavy because they're meant to strip away everything that keeps you dependent on the wrong things. God doesn't want you leaning on your strength, your plan, or your timing. He wants you to lean on Him completely. There's a process before every promise. Joseph had to go through the pit before the palace. David had to face Goliath before the crown. Moses had to walk through the wilderness before leading people to the promised land. Preparation always comes before elevation. You can't skip the hard parts, because it's in the hard parts that you discover who you truly are and who God truly is. It's in the pain that you learn patience. It's in the pressure that you learn perseverance. It's in the waiting that you learn to trust, even when you can't trace what He's doing. Every trial you face is a classroom, and every hardship is a teacher that molds you into the version of yourself that's ready to carry the weight of your calling. You may feel like you're stuck, but you're not. You're in training. God is strengthening your faith muscle. He's teaching you how to depend on Him in uncertainty, how to keep believing when the evidence doesn't match the promise. He's conditioning your heart for the destiny that's ahead. Because if He gave you everything you prayed for before you were ready, it would crush you instead of bless you. He has to prepare your character before He expands your influence. He has to test your faith before He entrusts you with greater responsibility. The pressure you feel right now is divine preparation for the platform you'll stand on later. It's in the seasons of preparation that you find your real strength. You start to realize that what you thought would break you actually built you. The moments that made you cry also made you grow. The pain that felt unbearable became the birthplace of resilience. Every scar you carry tells a story of survival and transformation. God is not punishing you. He's preparing you for something that requires a stronger version of yourself. That's why the fire had to come. That's why certain people had to leave. That's why certain doors had to close. Because if those things had stayed, you would have settled for less than what you were created for. You are in the middle of divine preparation, and it's messy, uncomfortable, and unclear. But even in the confusion, there is construction happening inside you. God is building endurance in your spirit, wisdom in your mind, and humility in your heart. The very things you thought disqualified you are the same things that are qualifying you for your next level. You are being molded, shaped, and stretched for something bigger than you can see. Every hardship, every unanswered prayer, every lonely night, they're all tools in His hands, forming you into the person capable of carrying the destiny He's designed for you. There are times in life when the silence of God feels louder than any storm. You pray, and there's no answer. You cry out, but the heavens seem closed. You do everything you know how to do. You remain faithful, you wait, you hope, and yet it feels like nothing is changing. That silence can be unsettling because it makes you wonder if God still hears you, if He still cares, if He's even there at all. But the truth is, His silence is not a sign of His absence. It's a sign of His strategy. God's quiet seasons are not punishment, they are preparation. He speaks through stillness, and he moves even when you can't trace his hand. When you can't hear his voice, that's often when he's doing his deepest work. Silence is God's classroom, and waiting is the training ground for faith. The times when you can't see any progress are the times when he's building strength inside you that you didn't even know you had. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there isn't momentum. God often works in the invisible realm before he reveals anything in the visible. He builds the foundation before you see the structure. He aligns the connections before you step into the opportunity. You may be frustrated, feeling like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, but behind the scenes, the creator of the universe is aligning every detail in your favor. The silence of God tests the depth of your faith. It reveals whether you trust him for what he can do or whether you trust him simply for who he is. When everything is loud and the blessings are flowing, it's easy to believe. But when the world grows quiet and heaven seems distant, that's when faith becomes real. God's silence invites you to lean in, to listen differently, to shift from asking for answers to resting in assurance. It's an opportunity to stop depending on signs and start depending on his Spirit. The silence isn't rejection. It's a reminder that sometimes God wants you to walk by faith, not by confirmation. In moments of silence, God is teaching you to mature spiritually. He's developing a faith that doesn't crumble when prayers aren't answered immediately. He's building resilience, endurance, and spiritual sensitivity. The silence stretches your trust, forcing you to dig deeper, to search his word, to rely on his promises rather than your perceptions. It's in the quiet that you learn that faith isn't about feelings. It's about focus. You begin to realize that even when you can't sense his presence, his purpose is still active in your life. He's still protecting you, guiding you, and arranging things you can't yet comprehend. Think about a seed buried underground. It looks dead. There's no movement, but no growth visible to the eye. But beneath the surface, life is forming. Roots are stretching deeper, structure is developing, and transformation is taking place. God's silence works the same way. You might feel buried, unseen, forgotten, but you're actually being planted. The soil of silence is where purpose takes root. If you stay faithful through the quiet, you'll eventually see the fruit of what he's been cultivating in secret. God hides you for a season not to punish you, but to protect the potential he's growing inside you from premature exposure. There's a sacred stillness that God uses to reorder your heart. Sometimes you've been praying for answers when what you need is alignment. You've been asking for solutions when God wants to give you strength. You've been begging for outcomes when he's trying to develop obedience. His silence isn't ignoring you. It's inviting you to surrender, to stop fighting for control and start trusting his timing. Because silence doesn't mean God has stopped speaking. It means he's speaking in a different way. He speaks through peace that makes no sense. He speaks through the closing of doors that weren't meant for you. He speaks through people leaving, seasons shifting, and opportunities fading, all to guide you to what truly belongs to you. The silence of God often exposes the noise in our own hearts. It reveals what we've been relying on too much. It strips away the distractions that keep us from hearing his whisper. We often want God to shout over the chaos, but sometimes he waits until the chaos dies down so we can finally hear him clearly. The quiet seasons are an invitation to rest, to reset, to remember that your worth and your future aren't tied to visible results, but to invisible faith. God's silence refines your trust because it forces you to believe even when you can't see, to worship even when you don't feel, and to hope even when you don't understand. You may feel forgotten, but you are being formed. You may feel overlooked, but you are being observed by heaven. Every moment of silence is a setup for revelation. God is working in ways that eyes cannot see and ears cannot hear. The silence doesn't mean that he's left you. It means that he's laying a foundation that requires quiet. Builders don't shout while laying the groundwork. They work carefully, intentionally, and quietly. In the same way, God is constructing something lasting in your life. The silence is sacred because it's where trust is perfected and faith becomes unshakable. You are stronger than what tried to break you. Every hardship you have faced, every season that left you on your knees, every moment that made you question whether you could go on was actually shaping a strength within you that you didn't know you possessed. There were times you thought it was over, times when the pain felt too deep to recover from, times when your heart was so heavy that even breathing felt like a battle. Yet here you are, still standing. That alone is proof that you are stronger than the struggle, bigger than the battle, and tougher than the test. What was meant to destroy you became the very thing that defined you. You've walked through fire and came out refined, not consumed. You've endured storms and found out that your spirit doesn't drown easily. Every scar you carry as evidence that grace met you right in the middle of the fight and refused to let you fall. Strength isn't built when everything is easy. It's built when everything feels impossible. It's built when you cry, but still show up, when you're afraid, but still move forward, when you've lost everything, but still choose to believe. Real strength isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet resilience, the kind that keeps going when no one is watching. You've learned to stand firm, even when your legs are shaking. You've learned to smile through pain, to hope through heartbreak, and to believe through betrayal. That's not weakness, that's power. Because strength isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of perseverance. Every time you chose to get back up after being knocked down, you were teaching your spirit how to overcome. There were seasons when the weight of life pressed so hard that you thought you'd break. But what actually happened is that you bent without snapping. That's what inner strength looks like. Flexibility in the face of adversity. You learn to adjust, to adapt, to grow through what you go through. The situations that were designed to break your spirit became the training ground for your endurance. You may not have realized it then, but every disappointment was building determination. Every delay was strengthening your patience, and every heartbreak was deepening your empathy. You've been forged by fire, and that's why you now carry a strength that can't be shaken easily. Sometimes the people who look the strongest are the ones who have cried the most. The ones who smile are often the ones who have had to wipe away their own tears. You've become that person, not because life has been kind, but because you've learned that faith is stronger than fear. You've discovered that hope can survive, even in darkness. You found out that peace isn't the absence of pain, but the ability to trust that pain won't have the final word. That's real strength. Not pretending everything is fine, but choosing to believe that somehow it will be, even when you don't see how. There's a resilience inside you that you didn't know existed until life demanded it. You've been through battles that others wouldn't have survived. You've carried burdens that no one else even knew about. You've smiled while suffering silently. You've kept moving when everything in you wanted to stop. That's not weakness. That's supernatural strength. You've proven that broken crayons still color, that shattered hearts can still beat, that wounded souls can still rise. You may have been bent, bruised, and scarred, but those marks are medals of survival. They're reminders that you're not fragile. You're forged. You've faced storms that could have drowned you. Yet somehow you learned how to walk on the waves. Strength doesn't mean you didn't cry, didn't doubt, or didn't feel pain. It means you didn't let those things define your ending. You turned pain into power, hurt into healing, and confusion into clarity. You refused to stay down. You kept getting up again and again, even when it made no sense to. Every time you chose to rise, heaven noticed. Every time you chose faith over fear, you rewrote your future. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, you gained freedom. And with every decision like that, your spirit grew stronger, wiser, and more unbreakable. The truth is, the strength you have today didn't come from what was easy. It came from what almost broke you. It came from walking through nights where you couldn't see the light, but trusting that morning would come anyway. It came from losing things you thought you couldn't live without and discovering that you could. It came from facing rejection and realizing that your worth isn't tied to anyone's acceptance. Every storm you've survived added a layer to your character. Every wound you've healed from became wisdom. Every loss you endured taught you resilience. You've been trained by trials, molded by mistakes, and refined by rejection. That's why you walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence that comes from knowing what you've overcome. You've seen the worst, yet you've chosen to believe in the best. You've faced the fire, yet you've chosen to come out glowing instead of burning. You've stood on the edge of giving up, yet something inside whispered, "Not yet." That whisper was your strength, the divine part of you that refuses to be defeated. Even when you didn't feel strong, strength was growing in you. Even when you felt powerless, perseverance was being born. What once made you weep now fuels your wisdom. What once broke your heart now builds your faith. And what once left you empty has now made space for a deeper kind of fullness that can only be found on the other side of endurance. The delay is not denial, it's divine timing. You may be looking at your life right now and wondering why things haven't happened the way you expected them to. You've prayed, you've worked, you've waited, and yet it feels like everything around you is standing still. The doors you thought would open have stayed closed. The opportunities you believed were meant for you have slipped through your fingers, and the answers you've been searching for haven't come. It's frustrating, it's confusing, and sometimes it's even heartbreaking. But what you need to understand is that the waiting season is not wasted time. It's a sacred process. God is not denying your prayers. He's aligning them. He's arranging things in the unseen, preparing both you and the promise, so that when it all comes together, it will be right, complete, and unstoppable. Sometimes what feels like delay is actually protection. You've been asking God for something that you believe is good, but He knows what's best. You see the moment, He sees the whole picture. You look at what's right in front of you, He looks at what's waiting down the road. There are opportunities that seem perfect now, but could destroy your peace later. There are relationships that look beautiful now, but could break your heart beyond repair if they came too soon. There are dreams that you think you're ready for, but that would crush you if you carried them prematurely. That's why God withholds certain things. Not because He's punishing you, but because He's preparing you. He's not saying no. He's saying, not yet. And in that not yet is where your character, your faith, and your endurance are built. It's easy to get discouraged when life doesn't move according to your timeline. You see others getting ahead, achieving what you've been praying for, walking into seasons that look like the ones you've been waiting on. And you start to wonder if something's wrong with you. But delay doesn't mean you're forgotten. The same God who is blessing others hasn't skipped over you. He's simply writing your story differently. Your timing is not their timing because your purpose is not their purpose. You're not late. You're in divine order. Sometimes the longer the wait, the greater the work God is doing in you. The delay is the cocoon where destiny develops. It's where God matures your vision, strengthens your faith, and teaches you to depend on Him, not the outcome. Think about the process of planting a seed. You can't rush its growth. You bury it, water it, and then wait, often without any visible sign of life for weeks or even months. But while nothing seems to be happening above the surface, the most important part of the process is taking place underground. The roots are forming, spreading, and anchoring the plant for what's to come. If the seed sprouted too early, it wouldn't have the strength to sustain what it's meant to produce. In the same way, God is using the delay to deepen your roots. He's anchoring your faith so that when your blessing comes, it won't blow away. With the wind of adversity, you're being strengthened for the very thing you've been asking for. The waiting season is where your trust is tested. It's easy to believe when everything is moving quickly, but real faith is forged in stillness. When God seems quiet, when the promise feels far, when nothing is happening, that's where you learn to walk by faith, not by sight. Waiting isn't passive. It's powerful. It's where patience is perfected, perspective is purified, and pride is stripped away. You begin to understand that God's timing is not based on your calendar, but on His character. He's never late, but He's also never in a hurry. He moves when everything is ready, not just when you are, but when the people, the circumstances, and the environment surrounding your promise are also prepared. If He moved too soon, the blessing wouldn't last. What looks like a delay might actually be divine synchronization. God is coordinating people you haven't met yet, opportunities that haven't been created yet, and outcomes that you can't even imagine yet. While you're waiting, He's weaving. While you're wondering, He's working. While you're doubting, He's designing. Every delay has purpose behind it. You're being protected from premature exposure and equipped for lasting impact. You don't see the movement because He's working behind the curtain. You don't hear the noise because He's operating in silence. But just because you can't feel, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Heaven doesn't rush what it's building to last forever. Sometimes God delays because He's still building the faith it takes to receive the blessing. If He gave it too early, you might think it was by your strength, your wisdom, or your effort. But when you've waited, when you've prayed, when you've struggled, when you've cried, and then you finally see it come to pass, you'll know beyond a doubt that it was all Him. The waiting humbles you, purifies your motives, and reminds you that every good thing comes from His hand. The delay creates gratitude that instant blessings could never produce. When it finally happens, you'll value it differently because you'll remember what it cost you to get there. There are blessings that require time because destiny is built in layers. God is aligning everything in perfect order, not just to bless you, but to sustain you. The delay is refining your patience, deepening your wisdom, and maturing your spirit. It's teaching you that waiting on God is not wasting time, but trusting divine timing. Every pause has a purpose. Every setback has a setup behind it. And every delay carries a divine appointment hidden within it. It's time to rise and walk in your purpose. You've waited long enough, questioned long enough, doubted long enough, and feared long enough. The time for hesitation is over. You've been praying for change, hoping for signs, and waiting for the perfect moment. But sometimes God doesn't send you another signal, because you are the signal. The very stirring in your heart, that inner pull that won't go away, that quiet voice telling you, there's more to your life. That's your calling speaking. You've spent too much time looking around, comparing, analyzing, and second guessing, but deep down you already know what you're meant to do. The gifts inside you have been waiting to be activated, and heaven is waiting for your yes. There's power inside you that's been buried under fear, insecurity, and the weight of past mistakes, but it's still there, ready to come alive. Every person born into this world carries divine purpose. You were created with intention, designed with a destiny, and placed on this earth to make an impact that no one else can make. Your story, your pain, your victories, and your struggles, they all have meaning. Nothing in your life has been wasted. It's all been preparation for what's ahead. The battles you fought weren't just random hardships. They were training for your mission. The tears you've cried weren't meaningless. They've watered the soil where your purpose will bloom. You've been asking for God to reveal your purpose, but He's already been revealing it through your passion, through your burdens, and through the things that move your heart deeply. You were not created to simply exist, to live life on repeat, to survive day after day without direction. You were created to thrive, to shine, to carry light into dark places. The reason you feel restless is because your spirit knows there's more. You've outgrown certain situations, certain people, certain patterns, because your purpose is pulling you higher. That discomfort, that dissatisfaction is not punishment. It's divine agitation. It's heaven's way of pushing you out of the comfort zone you've settled in. You can't reach your next level while clinging to the safety of the old one. Purpose requires movement, and movement requires faith. It's time to stop waiting for permission from people who didn't give you your calling in the first place. You don't need approval to be who God made you to be. Too often we let fear of judgment, failure, or rejection silence what's burning inside us. But the truth is, every great purpose faces opposition. The moment you decide to rise, resistance will appear. That's how you know it's real. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. The fear you feel is confirmation that there's greatness on the other side of it. Step forward anyway. Do it afraid. Move before you feel ready. Purpose doesn't wait for perfect timing. It's activated by obedience. You may think you're not qualified, not capable, not equipped. But purpose doesn't require perfection. It requires willingness. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Everything you've been through has been shaping you for this moment. The pain that once broke you is now your message. The battles you've won are now your testimony. The places where you were once weak are now the very areas through which God will use you to reach others. Purpose doesn't erase your past. It redeems it. You've been through what you've been through so you could carry wisdom, compassion, and strength into the lives of those who will need your voice. Inside you lies something the world needs. A story that can heal, a gift that can lift, a word that can inspire, a heart that can love deeply, a strength that can rebuild. Don't hide what heaven has placed within you. Stop believing the lie that you're too late, too flawed, or too far gone. Purpose isn't limited by age, background, or circumstance. As long as you're breathing, God can use you. Every new morning is another chance to step into your calling. Don't underestimate the impact of your obedience. A single step of faith can change the course of your entire life. You've been through too much to stay stuck in fear. You've cried too long to settle for average. You've prayed too hard to keep shrinking. When you're called to stand tall, this is the season where you stop talking about what you want to do and start doing it. Write the vision. Speak the word. Take the step. The path may not be clear, but clarity comes through movement. When you move, God moves. When you step out, doors open. When you act on faith, provision follows purpose. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step and trust that God will meet you there. There is something powerful that happens when you decide to stop running from your calling. Suddenly, the weight of uncertainty begins to lift. Peace starts to replace fear. Opportunities begin to align with your obedience. That's because purpose attracts provision. The moment you decide to walk in what you were created for, the right people, resources, and doors begin to appear. You were never meant to walk in circles, wondering what to do next. You were meant to rise with boldness and walk in divine confidence, knowing that the one who called you has already equipped you for every step ahead. You've been prepared for this your entire life, even when you didn't realize it. Every detour, every disappointment, every delay was part of the process. You've been refined through the fire, strengthened through the storm, and humbled through the waiting. All of it was leading to this moment. The moment where you finally decide to rise. This is not the time to hold back or to let fear whisper you into stillness. This is the time to believe that you are exactly who you were meant to be, standing in exactly the moment you were meant to stand in, ready to do exactly what you were born to do.